Do you want to learn HTML and CSS? That's what this video is all about. My name is Phil Ebener and I'm the founder of videoschoolonline.com. I've partnered with Nick Walter, an amazing mobile and web developer, on a brand new course that teaches the basics of HTML5, CSS3, and Bootstrap. It's perfect for anyone that wants to become a web developer from scratch, or for anyone like me personally who has a WordPress website or just any website but wants to be able to make custom changes to the backend so that it can look exactly how you imagine. This course is great for beginners, so if you have no experience coding, developing websites, building any websites at all, it's a great way to start. Within the first hour of the course, you'll already be working on your own projects. And then once you know the basics, we'll be doing some complete website builds so that you put all of your knowledge together and you feel confident creating your own custom websites from scratch. The reason why I wanted to come to you today in this video though is that we're giving you free access to the entire first section of the course, which is the basics of HTML section. In this section, you'll learn how to start building websites using HTML, which is the basic building block of any modern website. There's over an hour of content where Nick walks you through getting started, installing the free programs that we use to actually code and develop our websites. He'll walk through basic HTML coding like adding text, images, hyperlinks to a web page. If you're interested in the premium course, which has over 7 more hours of content, plus downloadable guides, cheat sheets, challenges, and case studies that show you how what you're learning can be applied in the real world, I recommend checking it out right now. We have a great discount if you click through the link below, which will get you instant access to the entire course. Okay, enough blabbing from Phil. Let's get straight to the course content. I'm going to pass it over to Nick, who's going to walk you through the basics of HTML.
Hello, it's me. Hey, just want to let you know that I'm going to be down here in the corner walking you through every step of this process. Hope you enjoy seeing me on screen here. All right, so before we can start learning anything, we've got to make sure that we've got the right tools on our computer. And you can have any operating system that you want, Linux, Windows, Mac, it's all okay. The tools that we're going to be using work on all those platforms. So the first thing that we need to get is a code editor called Brackets. So go ahead and open up whatever web browser that you'd like. I'm going to be using Safari here just first as an example. And you want to go to brackets.io. Okay, so Brackets is a web programming tool that will allow you to, one, edit code and visually see what it looks like very quickly. I'm a huge fan of this. I'm going to rant and rave about it as we talk about, different things here. But what we want to do is go ahead and first get it downloaded. So I'm going to click on this download Brackets. Right now, the current version is 1.9. You might have a different version at the time that you're downloading, but don't worry, there's no huge major changes in between versions. And so while that download is going, the other tool that we're going to need is the Chrome web browser. Now, Chrome is probably already installed on your computer. It's one of the most popular web browsers out there. But in case it's not, just go ahead and go to Google. If you go to google.com and you don't have Chrome installed on your computer, I'm going to guess that Chrome's going to be chomping at the bit to try and get you to, download it. But just go ahead and search for Google Chrome, and there's going to be a pop-up link, right here at the top. Just go ahead and download this and get that installed. We're going to use Chrome web browser to debug our code, make sure that our website's looking good, and it works really well with Brackets. So you got to make sure that you got Chrome. Okay. So it looks like our Brackets download has finished. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that download and get this opening up. Now I'm installing Brackets here on a Mac. If you're on a PC or Linux, it's going to look a little bit different, but I'm going to assume that you know how to install things there. If you have any questions, please post them. Phil and I will be more than willing to help you to make sure you get on the right path there. Okay. So this is going to go ahead and first sort of get this installer up and running. Again, make sure if you don't have Chrome that you're downloading that and getting that install process ready to rock and roll. So once that's done, if you're on a Mac, it's going to show this little window where you need to take the Brackets application and move it into your applications folder. So go ahead and do that. Again, if you're on Linux or Windows, it's going to look a little bit different, but I'm sure you know how that looks on your system. So go ahead, go through that install process and make sure it gets into the right location. Okay, so Brackets has finished installing. It's time to go ahead and open it up now. Here on my Mac, I'm going to use the Launchpad to go ahead and get to this Brackets app. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that will start opening it up. So Brackets is where we're going to be writing all of our website code. We're also going to be using it to test things out, see how it works. And if you open it up for the very first time, it's going to have this sort of sample website code here up and running. And you should just see some text like this. Now, first time coming here, you're going to look at this and be like, what the heck is all this garbage? Like, I don't know what any of this stuff means, but I'm going to show you how you can see what a website should be looking like here. So once you have this Brackets code open, make sure you've got index.html selected over here. You can kind of, click on different files to see what they look like, but make sure you have this index.html. Then go ahead and hit this little lightning bolt over here. This is called the live preview. So you've got to have Google Chrome installed for this to work, but once you have Chrome installed, go ahead and click on this live preview. And basically what happens is that Brackets goes ahead and starts a little web server and runs this website code that it has here, and it has it displayed inside of a Chrome web browser. So I've kind of split it up so I can see both side by side here. And the real power that comes from this is, obviously you don't know all the code that's happening over here, but if you scroll up to the top here where it says getting started with Brackets, if I go ahead and click on this on the right side in the Brackets editor, look what changes on the website. It tells me, hey, this is the part that you've selected. And if I want to say getting started with cheese or something like this, as I type and live update, it shows up here on the web browser. This is so awesome. I love Brackets for this. It makes it really cool to see what you're doing here in the code, how it impacts the actual website. Okay, so if you were able to get this live preview up, that means you are completely ready to go. Google Chrome and Brackets, those are the two tools that we're going to be using to make websites. So if you had any issues whatsoever, please leave it as a question to this video. I'll be there to help you. We're now going to move on and learn about HTML5. So we're going to go ahead and kick off this section by learning about what HTML5 is, and then I'm going to show you how it's used everywhere, all over the internet. It's going to blow your mind how all this stuff works. So first thing is, if we want to learn something new, I think there's no better place to look than Wikipedia. So I have the HTML entry here loaded up, and this just kind of gives you some basic information. You see HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Never refer to it as that. That is a bunch of garbage. Everyone just knows it as HTML. And HTML is, as it said here, a markup language. I wouldn't refer to it as a programming language like you might hear about Java, JavaScript, Python, Swift, Ruby, those programming language. It's more kind of a format for a file, and you're going to see that as we sort of walk through this here. The next thing that I want to address is I've always referred to it as HTML5 that we're learning. You may be thinking, is there HTML4, 3, 2? What's that all about? And if you look through the history here, there's been multiple versions of HTML. So 2.0 came out in 1995. Then, came version 3 in 97. You can kind of see these, but something I do want to point out, the last version to come out was HTML 4.01 in about 99 and 2000. And then the next version, HTML5, did not come out until 2014. So that was like a 14-year stretch where it was like, you know what we've got right now, it's working, it's okay. So if you're wondering, okay, what's the big differences between these different versions? Well, there's, some new things that have been added. They've gotten rid of other things as these different versions have come. But the big thing is that most HTML code out there, this, language, it works for almost every single version. Now, stuff that maybe came out in 2.0 versus 5, that's going to be pretty different. But if we're talking about stuff that, worked on, version 4.0 and version 5, like those are going to be almost the same. Like I said, there's some new stuff in 5, but, you don't have to get all uptight and, oh, is this HTML5? Is this HTML4? Like, no. It's all just HTML, and every major browser out there is supporting HTML5. Okay, so now I want to talk about what HTML is. You're probably still thinking like, I really don't get what it is. And it's basically this reference, and it's these rules saying, okay, if you make a file that follows these certain things, a web browser should display it in this certain way. So it's kind of this contract between someone who wants to create a website and then the browser that's going to display that page. So I think the best way to do this is look at just a very simple HTML file. So let's go ahead and open up brackets. That was our text editor. So I'm going to go to my applications and open that up. And when we opened it up for the first time, there was sort of this example project there for us. And the code here is a little bit small, so I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger. So if you can get to your brackets preferences, this is how you get to it in Mac. You might see it somewhere else if you're in a different operating system, but this is where you can make some changes. For example, what size the font should be and stuff like that. And for example, here the font size right now is 12. I might want to change this to something like 24. I'm going to hit save on that, and then boom, all of a sudden this code's a lot bigger. So I think this is pretty readable. I'm going to leave this here. If I hit this little X, then it's going to get rid of that, and I can come back here to this HTML. Oh, and I want to get rid of the split screen, so I'm going to hit this little X up here at the top. Okay. So this was sort of the example HTML file that they gave us, and you can see it's just text inside of an HTML file. And basically the idea here is that you put these tags around text and things like that, and it basically is this file that a web browser knows how to display properly. So, this code that looks like this right now, there's just all these slashes and greater than or less than signs, doesn't look all that great. But when you look at this in a web browser, like if I hit this little lightning bolt here, it's going to pull it up in Chrome. It looks a whole lot prettier. Okay, and so the whole idea is that HTML is sort of this contract that if you write your code in a certain way, we're going to display it in a web browser in a certain way. And so it's basically taking this stuff, which is sort of meant for the browser, the computer, and making it into a cool visual experience. So here that an actual person who's looking at this through a web browser can be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I understand what's going on here. So to kind of show you how HTML is used everywhere, like seriously, this is going to blow your mind. Every website that you've gone to is powered by HTML. It's just one of these HTML files with a bunch of these tags inside of there and stuff. So if you want to see this, for example, on this Wikipedia page even that I'm looking at for HTML, we're getting really meta here. If you go up to View and then under Developer, do View Source, this will show you the HTML behind that web page. So for example, this is all the code behind showing this Wikipedia page. And I mean, if you kind of scroll through here, you can sort of see some familiar stuff. Like, here it's talking about the different versions. Oh, there's 2.0. Then as we scroll through, there's version 4.0, whatever. Like, you can kind of see, okay, I could see how these two things are connected. But every website is powered by HTML when you get down to it. Now, obviously, these two things don't look similar, but this is like the instructions to the browser to say this is how you should present this. And so there's all sorts of information about show this specific picture, make text this color, make the background that color, and things like that. So I want to just do this for a couple more websites so you can see everything has a source. So if we go to, for example, let's go to google.com. You got to spell google.com correctly to get there. But if we do View Developer Source, just like this, you can see this is the code behind Google. Now, you'd be surprised, like this looks like such a simple web page, but holy cow, there's like all this, code behind it. Let's do another one like apple.com, for example. Okay, so let's do View Developer View Source. Again, this is all the code behind it. Now, something that's really awesome is since a website is basically just showing this file, right, which is all this text, and it's, sort of sorted out in a certain special position. That's what HTML is, and we're going to be learning this as we go. But you can actually change this on your browser. So if you've ever wanted to prank someone, like change their Facebook status or whatnot, I'm going to show you how you can do that real quick and just show you that, HTML at the end of the day is just this sort of text file almost that you can manipulate however you want. So let's go ahead and go to a new website. Let's go to the New York Times website, and I'm going to do New York Times here, and I'm going to go ahead, I should have known this domain, nytimes.com, that makes sense. And I'm just going to show you how you can change things on a page if you want to. So in Chrome, you can see the HTML behind a page by doing that view source, but you can also just right click anywhere and do view, or not view page source, you want to do inspect. And if you click on this, this little thing comes up from the bottom. I call it the developer wedgie, but it basically shows the HTML code behind this website. And we can scroll down through here. You might have to hit some arrows to kind of get more in depth into stuff. But you can click this little button here, which will let you sort of click on anything in the page and it will show you the code behind it. So let's say I want to change maybe the top headline here. So if I go ahead and click on this, it shows me, oh, this is the line of code that is, making this display here. And I can actually change the text inside of here. So if I double click inside of here and I want it to say now something like, Nick is a very cool dude, okay, and I click out of this, look at that! All of a sudden now on the New York Times, it looks like, Nick is a very cool dude. And the reason that this works is all that is happening here is when we go to newyorktimes.com, we're basically saying, send us your HTML file for newyorktimes.com. So the New York Times, they have, a web server somewhere that says, okay, I've got to go get all the top headlines and stuff, and they format it into this perfect HTML file that's current for this very moment, and they send that back to our browser, and then our browser makes this show up. And so it is actually looking at this HTML file, and we can change that file if we want to. Now, just because I changed this to say Nick is a very cool dude does not mean this happens for anybody else in the world. It's just currently for what I have now. In fact, if I go ahead and reload this page, it's going to bring back the real title that was there before. But since I have my own version now, I've gone to New York Times, I said, give me your HTML file, I can change something else. So for instance, let's see if I can even change the New York Times title. It might be an image, but let's see. I'm going to double click where it says New York Times, and I'm going to change it to the Rick Times or something like that. Yeah, I don't think that worked because I think that's probably an image. So let's go ahead and try and change something else. Let's change maybe like this little chunk of code inside of here. Okay, so I'm going to double click and just say, I like cheese very much or something like that. And all of a sudden, look, I like cheese very much. So I kind of want to give you a challenge real quick is maybe, pull a prank on your friend or whatever, show some like Twitter update from the president, or go to your friend's Facebook and change one of their status updates, do this inspect thing to go change some code inside of there. And that'll just kind of be a fun thing. Remember when I said being curious is really going to help you learn in this class? Go ahead and take a moment, go to one of your favorite websites and try changing some of the text on there. I think that'll be pretty fun. So did you have fun kind of pranking a family member or friend, whoever it is you did, or just for your own enjoyment, changing one of your favorite websites? I hope you thought that was cool. When I first learned that, I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like a wizard. I could do anything that I want. So in this lecture, I want to cover some of the HTML basics. We're going to be talking a lot about these things called tags. Really, this is the foundation of HTML. And we're going to do this by creating our very first HTML project, which really is going to be our very first website. So we're going to go ahead and make a new file here in this brackets editor. So in brackets, there's a lot of working files showing up here. These are ones you've accessed recently. If you ever want to, get rid of these, you can just hit the little X. If you want to make a new file, it's as simple as going up here to the top and saying new, like this, and it gives you a new file. Now it hasn't saved it as anything, so we're going to have to do that. But just for the time being, I'm just going to type something like, hello, my name is Nick. All right, then I want to save this file so that we can save it as an HTML file. So you can either just do like a Command S, Control S to save this, or you can just go up and say File Save. All right, and it's going to ask you where do you want to put this, and I'm going to put mine on the desktop. Now here's the important thing: is we want to make sure that we save it as an HTML file type. So when we're saving it, I'm going to call mine, for example, first website.html. Okay, so typically you don't want to have any spaces in this name. You don't want to have any special punctuation like exclamation points, stars, or anything like that. So just do some text, make sure there's no spaces, then have a .html. You don't have to name yours first website. You can name it whatever you want, but just something .html. So I'm going to go ahead and save mine, and there you can see it's on the desktop, first website.html. And if we go ahead and actually open this in our web browser, we could do this if we said, you know, open with, and I could choose Google Chrome, for example. It'll show the text that we had inside of there, that hello, my name is Nick. And if we right click and do view page source, it's going to show us the exact same text that was over there. I know, kind of boring, but really I'm just trying to show you, you know, HTML, all it is, it's a file, and then a browser shows that file to us. And we can use some special things in HTML to make our website look cool, but at the end of the day, a browser just shows a file, all right? And for the remainder of the course, rather than just directly open this file in Chrome, we're going to use this cool little lightning bolt here, which Bracket sets up its own sort of little web browser here. And this will just allow us to edit things a little bit cleaner and see what happens with the code. But I just want you to know that you could just directly open an HTML file if you wanted to, okay? So first thing I want to talk about is how you specify that a file is an HTML file. Well, the first one is that you give it that .html. That's the very first thing you should have out there, and just say, you know, this thing is an HTML file. But also, there's a few other things that you should do to kind of say that this is an HTML file. So the very first thing is if we go to this index.html, which was, you know, sort of the starter one that we had here, every HTML file should start with this little text right here where we say, you know, the brackets on each side, exclamation point, doc type HTML, which is just saying this file is an HTML file. You need to treat it as such. Now, we had this first website.html with some text in it, and we didn't put, you know, this doc type HTML on the top, and it still worked. And that's because browsers are pretty smart. They can say, okay, I didn't see this here, but it's a .html file. I figured that should be the case. But you do want to get into the habit of that. So we're going to go back to our first website.html, and at the very top here, we're going to do this first bracket on the left side, and then we're going to say, and I guess I should specify, whenever I call these things brackets, I mean, these are probably the real brackets, right? But I'm kind of talking about these angled brackets, and you're going to see these all over in HTML. So we're going to do our angled brackets, exclamation point, all capital, doc type, and then lowercase HTML. Now you notice if we do this, and then we go ahead and hit this little lightning bolt here to see what it looks like, it does not show up here. Like, we don't see the, you know, angled brackets and the exclamation point. We still just see the hello, my name is Nick. But if we, you know, right click and say view page source, we can see, oh, that's a disappointment. I thought it was going to show us the doc type that we had just shown. So I guess maybe it didn't do that. That's something we've got to, it just takes out by default. But this is a habit we should get into. Like I said, a lot of browsers will know how to handle it if you don't, but it's a good thing to have. So now I want to talk and dive into the topic of tags. So in HTML, there's these things called tags where you basically put some text or information in between two different tags, and it's going to treat what's inside of there a certain way. So for example, the very first tag that you should have in an HTML website is HTML. So we're going to do our first HTML tag just like this. We do HTML. This is the opening tag, and you'll see if I use the autocomplete that they gave us, if I, you know, start typing HTML, I've got to spell this correctly, HTML with the closing bracket here. As soon as I do that closing bracket, it provides the ending one. So all tags have an opening and a closing tag. So this is the opening one, the HTML, and then this is the closing. So in a typical HTML document, you should have your opening HTML tag, and then somewhere down at the bottom, you need to have your closing HTML tag. And then, you know, sort of everything else that's going to show up on your website goes in between those two things, okay? So that's the first one that we should know about. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is the head tag. So to do the head tag, it's just very similar to the HTML that we have here. We are going to do our angled bracket. We're going to type head, all right? And we'll do the ending one, and look, it makes, you know, an opening and closing one for us. So inside the head is where you provide some metadata about the website. So for example, you'll notice this first one that we have, the little title for this website is just showing up as firstwebsite.html, and you know, that doesn't look very good. Like, we would want to change that. So if we do want to change that to be something better, we're going to now put a title tag inside of here. So you can imagine the name for title. We're going to do this angled bracket with title, Okay, and then it's provided the closing one for us automatically. This is why brackets so cool. And then we can put anything we want. And I might put, this is my cool website. All right, so to see these changes, we're gonna go ahead and hit save here. So I'm gonna do Command S because I'm on a Mac. It might be Control S for you. You can, just hit File Save if you want to. And then go ahead and hit your lightning bolt here. Let's see what it looks like when this opens up. And dun, 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 this is my cool website. You see how it shows up here at the top? Like, isn't that awesome? So now some other things that you can eventually put here inside of this head tag is you can change what the little icon is going to be up here. When we start working with CSS, we're going to specify it here inside of the head tag. The head tag is all about showing providing information that's not visible to the user, but that is going to work. Now, the one exception to that is the title here, right? But it's just kind of like top level stuff that we're going to have here inside of the head. And you'll notice now if we, right click and do the view page source, we can see there's our doc-type.html. I think that just wasn't showing up before because I didn't do my save on the file. But here you can see, all the stuff that's going into our HTML page here, okay? So the last thing that I want to show you for the basic structure of an HTML website is we want to do something called a body. So inside the body is where all the, core guts of your website supposed to be. So if I just start doing an angled bracket and then type body and then do my ending one, it makes the stuff there. And for example, our text, this should technically be inside of these body tags. So if I go ahead and put some text inside of there, hello, my name is Nick. This is, considered to be the most basic version of a website. Now you see, as soon as I save these changes, this did not make any difference. It still visually looks the same. If I change this to, say Rick instead of Nick, I save this, come back, yeah, it's gonna say Rick with the R there, but putting inside of the body tag isn't gonna do anything. And again, that's because modern browsers are smart enough to know, hey, if you just gave me something like this, hello, my name is Rick, you don't provide doc type header, the head tag, HTML tags, it's still smart enough to say, I probably know what's going on. Let me make sure I save this. It still has that title. Maybe I have to reload the page. There we go. But I mean, it's basically going to look the same. But I want to go ahead and bring this back. And just know this is like the basic structure you should see with any website. You've got doc type at the top. You have your HTML tags, which sort of encompass everything. Then you have these head tags where you can specify stuff like the title. Eventually we'll put CSS in there. And then you have body, which is going to hold everything inside of the website. This is where all the text goes and all that information. If you want to see that this really is the case, go back to this index.html that, brackets had provided. And look, they've got doctype.html at the top. There's their top HTML tag. Here they have their own head. Now look, they've set a title. There's some other things inside of there. But look, they've got a body tag and there's all of their stuff. Let's do this again with, some other website. Let's go to google.com. All right. And we're going to right click and say view page source. Now, when you look at their code, look up at the very front, what do they have? They have doc type HTML, and then they have their HTML tag. And look, there's their head tag. Now, they took out all their spaces, which I think was like a savings file to make it so that their page would load a little bit faster. It makes us hard to read as humans, but, it works out. But, any website follows this pattern. If we go to Apple again, I just want you to see what their source looks like. Okay, so look, doc type HTML. There's that opening HTML tag. There's the head. If we scroll down, we should see the body. There it is. There's that body. And down at the bottom of all of this, there's the ending body tag and the ending HTML tag. Okay, so I probably overloaded you with enough information in this one. Congratulations on making your very first website here. I know it's not all that exciting, but you now know the basics of how to make an HTML file, what these different tags are about and whatnot. And we've got a lot more tags to learn about. We have a lot of other things to learn to, sort of spice up our website and make it a lot better. Let's go ahead and dive into it in the next lecture. In this lecture, you're going to be learning about header tags, which is one of the most common tags you see in HTML. So some of these other tags that you learned about, right, like the HTML, the head, the body, these aren't all that excited because they can't really do much. They're sort of structural tags that we have, but these header ones, these are going to be really exciting. So to show you your very first one, and I'll tell you, these header tags are meant to, show some sort of title or something in your website. So we're going to make our very first one. So the header tags, they all have numbers associated with them. So the first header is you do your angled bracket, and it's just H1. And you can see there's H1 through 6. There's a bunch of different header tags here. So I'm going to do H1, all right, and you can see it gives me the ending one. And the idea is any text you put inside of this these two H1 tags, it's going to apply the header 1 functionality to that. So for example, I'm going to put something like, this is my first website, okay, and I'm going to hit save here. I'm going to have to do my little exclamation point to see what this looks like again. All right, and look at that. It's made the text bold. It's made it really big. It started a new line underneath, and that's what the header tags do. So what happens if I change this to H2? And I'm going to do a little bit of magic here, where I'm going to shrink the website to about half the screen, and then also take our code, and I'm going to make this about half the screen, so that way we can kind of see live what happens as we change our code, what it looks like on the website. Let me kind of get our spacing right here. There we go. So what happens if we change this to an H2 tag, for example? So I change this to 2, for example. I'm going to have to change both the opening and the closing tag here. But if I go ahead and hit save on this, look at that. It sort of shrunk it down a little bit. If I change this to like an H3 tag, for example, hit save, look at that. It shrinks it even more. So if you want to see sort of the full effects of this, let's go ahead and copy this. This is my first website, and we're going to paste it 6 times and do all the different tags there. So I'm going to put, what is that, 5 there. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And I have to update these as well to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and boom, look at this. You can see what happens with each of the headers here, right? So H1's obviously your first biggest tag to sort of say, this is something really important that I want the user of this website to know about. And then, H2 on, it sort of goes down from there. And you're going to see this a lot in a lot of different websites. For example, Google, when they're trying to rank web pages and decide what's the most important part of a website, they will typically look to an H1 tag on the page and say, what's inside of this H1 tag, because that's probably what this website is most about. But yeah, and like I said, very common. Again, if we wanted to go to any sort of website, let's go to New York Times, for example, .com, and see what its source is like. I'm going to bring this back sort of big screen here. All right, and let's do the view page source. Come on, Chrome. Maybe I'll have to do it through view here. Okay, view source. Okay, there's a whole bunch of mess inside of here, but if I do a control find for like H1, for example, here you can see during the H1 tags, there's one that says got a confidential news tip. Here's another one about 4 standout college application essays on work, money, and class. Let's see if they use like H2, for example. And look, here we've got an H2. The New York Times offers several ways to get in touch, provide materials to journalists. This must be somewhere down on the page. Oh, look at this. There's 376 results for H2, so they must use H2 for a lot of things. That might be one of the sizes they said was good. And look, just from browsing, there's an H3 over there. So like I said, these are used in a bunch of different websites. So there's really not much more to say about these headers than this. Anytime you put some text inside of a header file, it's going to do a new line and sort of make that text bigger or bold depending on which H1 through 6 that you decide to use. I do want to sort of emphasize here that with tags inside of HTML, whether it be this HTML tag, head, title, body, whatever, the opening tag is just, the angled brackets around whatever the name of the tag is. And then the ending one is those same angled brackets, but then with a slash before the name. So, angled brackets H1 with this, this is my first website. Then afterwards we have angled brackets /H1. So just so you know, this is the opening. And whenever you see the slash, that's the ending tag inside of there. Okay, so I think we've probably learned enough here. We still got some more to learn. Let's keep moving on in the next one. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about all things text in HTML. And to kick this off, I want to show you something that's a little bit strange in HTML that initially you're like, whoa, that's really weird. So I have some text inside of my website. Like I have the headers here. Those are sort of those own things, right? Like they make their own lines. But let's say I want to write some little poem or story like, hello, my name is Nick. I like to eat cheese. It smells very good, or something like this. Okay, so this is some sort of poem story. I don't know, but you can see like I've got some spaces in between here. If I save this, look what it shows like in the browser. It says, hello, my name is Nick. I like to eat cheese. It smells very good. It does not welcome any of these new lines or, this returns that I have made to say, okay, these should be on their own separate lines. It disregards all of that. Okay, so that's something that you've got to understand with HTML, is that it doesn't really care about new lines, and it really doesn't care about spaces. For example, if I say like, I like to eat cheese with a ton of spaces in between there, if I hit save, nope, it takes all this empty white space and it says, they probably only needed one white space here, and that's it. You're probably thinking, oh, what the heck? Like, how am I supposed to work with this? Well, over the course of this lecture, I'm going to tell you how you can deal with this. So the first one is, if you have a couple of paragraphs of text that you want to talk about, there is a paragraph tag in order to, sort of organize those things. So if you've got a website or you want to provide a couple of paragraphs, you should use these tags. So the way to do this is you do, this is probably one of the simplest tags out there. It's just the opening tag P, and that's it. The P stands for paragraph. These are paragraph tags. So I can put something inside of here like, hello, my name is Nick, and I think HTML is cool. I hope you enjoy my website, whatever, right? So if I save this, you can see what it looks like over here. That looks awesome. And so the whole idea with paragraphs, if you have a couple of paragraphs, I'm going to copy this and put another one down here. Now when I hit save, you can see each paragraph starts a new line. So this is, if you ever want to have that spacing without having to manually say these things should be spaced a certain amount apart from each other, you should be using these paragraph tags, okay? Now, the next thing that I want to cover, let me get to my notes here, is how you can manipulate certain pieces of text to stylize them how you'd like. So for example, in this first one here where I say like, my name is Nick, and I think HTML is cool. If I really want to emphasize that I think HTML is cool, I want to italicize it, right? Sort of shift the text over like this. Let me show you how to do that with the italicized tag. So this is really cool. You'll see this. So we want to wrap our opening and closing italicized tag around the text that we want to italicize. So for HTML is cool, I'm going to do the opening tag here and say I. Sort of close that up, and I shouldn't say opening tag, I should say the opening bracket or whatever. But so there's our opening one, and I'm going to take the closing one and I'm going to put it after is cool, just like this. So you can see we've sort of wrapped this text around. I'm going to bring out this bracket a little bit so you can just see this code a little bit better, because in fact, let's just kind of make this full screen. We can switch between the two rather easily. So right, so I got this big line of code here. There's a couple of sentences, but just around HTML is cool, I put the italicized tags there. When I hit save now and look back at this code, look at what it's done. It's taken HTML is cool and it's made it italicized. So it didn't happen down here because I didn't change any of this at all, but it totally did it there. And it's whatever you put inside of there. If I want all of it to be italicized, if I move this opening I tag over here and then the closing one just before the ending of this P tag, I'm going to put that there, hit save. Look at that. This whole thing is italicized, okay? But I kind of liked it how it was for just the HTML is cool part, okay? So that's one way that you can manipulate text. The next one is if you ever want to bold something. So if you wanted to really emphasize that, this is my website, you could put a bold tag around this. So for the bold, it's just a B like this. There's our opening tag. Let's take our closing one. I'll put it at the end of website. Okay, I'm going to hit save and check this out. Now it's bolded that piece of text. Isn't that cool? Okay, so these are a couple of things that you can do to take your text and sort of manipulate them, make them do some cool things. Now you can use these in combination with other tags. For example, if I wanted my H1 to be italicized, I can put my I inside of here, and let me, cut and put that at the end, save this. Now look at that. This is my first website. All of a sudden looks a little bit fancier, does it? One more that I want to talk about is if you ever want to underline something, like if I want to really emphasize my name is Nick, and you can see you have all sorts of reasons why you might want to underline, italicize, bold, but they're usually to highlight something. But if I want to do the underline, it's just simply a U. Okay, so I'm going to put my ending U tag after my name is Nick, hit save, and check that out. So now we've kind of got this really, eccentric sentence here. Hello, my name is Nick underlined, and I think in italicized HTML is cool. I hope that you enjoy bold my website. Like, we can kind of give some character to our text here, which is, I don't know, pretty fun. The last thing that I do want to talk about, and this sort of goes to the beginning, remember when we couldn't make new lines whenever we wanted to? Like, we can sort of make new lines with these paragraph tags, right? It shows the spacing in between the two. But if you ever want to just manually make your own line, you can use a break in order to accomplish that. So for example, if I want to just list out like my poem thing again, like Nick is cool, he is awesome, I like cheese. Okay, a really simple 3-sentence thing here. What you can do is you can put breaks in between each of these. So to make a break, it's just BR like that, and go ahead and do your ending break tag here, just like that. And I'm going to copy and paste this so that it's after each of these guys. I guess we don't need one after the last one, but if I go ahead and hit save here, look at that. It has Nick is cool, he is awesome, I like cheese. And the really cool thing is that like you can sort of put these in a straight line just like this, right? Because the BR is the tag saying that you should have a new line. And if we save this, it looks exactly the same. It's not like you have to have spacing. It's wherever you put this BR tags, they're going to work. Now, something that you'll notice here is that brackets has kind of made the ending tag here red, and it didn't autocomplete and give us one. And that's because you never put anything inside of the 2 BR tags, like the opening and closing one. We have traditionally in the past with like underline stuff, paragraphs, the body, whatever, right? Things should go inside of there. But with the break, there's nothing that you would put inside of there. So you actually don't even need the ending tag here. This is the one tag where you don't need that. So we can actually go ahead and delete this one. We can delete this one here, and brackets is going to like that, the code editor here, because then it doesn't have to worry about making that stuff all, whatever. But now it just totally works. And if you want to do multiple breaks, you can totally do that. If I copy and paste that a few times, hit save over here, look at that. It makes a big space in between these things. Now our code is just like totally rocking. So I know we just covered a lot of things there. We covered paragraphs, we covered underline, bold, italicize, breaks, so many things going on. So if you need a second to kind of process this, go ahead and sort of review this, maybe make some, small changes on your own that you're kind of understanding this. We're getting pretty much there with our HTML crash course here. So a little bit more to learn, but we're almost done with this section. Keep trucking.
All right, what do you think so far? By now you know a little bit about how HTML works, how every modern website uses HTML in the back end, and how to start creating your own website using HTML. Just a reminder, if you want the entire course, which has 7 more hours of content, plus going through CSS and Bootstrap, the next steps that will help make your websites look and feel more professional, enroll in the premium course. Just click the link below. Okay, back to Nick and the basics of HTML.
In this lecture, we're going to be learning about links, and links are what allow you to move from one page to the next. So if you've ever been to a website and you see something highlighted in blue, that's like the typical way to represent a link. It's saying, hey, if you click on this, you can move to the next web page. And typically whatever in blue describes where you're going. So in HTML world, we call it an A tag, but the A tag is essentially a link, or it's also called a hyperlink. So let's go ahead. If we're going to move from one website to the next, we actually have to make another one. So let's make a new HTML file and put it on our desktop. So right now we have first website.html. Let's go ahead and make a new one. I'm going to say file, new. Okay, and I've got this new document. I'm going to hit save so that I can give it some sort of name, and I'm going to make sure that I save this on my desktop. I'm going to call this the next page.html. Now remember, no spaces inside of here, right? As long as it's one contiguous thing, you're going to be in great shape. So go ahead and hit save. And so now that I have the next page, let me just go ahead and put some text on there. Right? Let's go ahead and copy the basics that we've got here for an HTML page. We can get rid of a lot of this information. Maybe all I'll leave here is just an H1 tag that says this is the next page. Pretty simple, right? So if we go ahead and save this, we could hit this lightning bolt button to go see what it looks like, or we could go to our browser here, and you can see right now, well, it's already showing up. Thank you, brackets, for getting the right thing here. I was saying we could change this to the next page.html, but it's already got it here. So you can see that's what this looks like. But what we're trying to do is make it so that if we're working on this very first website, that we could click on something and move on to that next page. So let me show you what that looks like. So if we have some text, let's maybe say something like move to next page. All right. And we go ahead and save this. Let's see what it looks like. There it is. We've got our, oh, I thought we did. Let me reload this. It's not, oh, there it is, move to the next page, but I didn't do a break. We just learned about that. I need to apply what I'm learning here. So I'm going to do a little BR tag. Maybe I'm going to do 2 of these just to make sure it moves down. And there we have it, move to next page. So if we want to make it so that if someone clicks on move to next page, that it actually goes to the next page, well, what we do is we put this text inside of an A tag. So I'm going to do my A right here. All right, that gives me the ending A tag. I'm going to go ahead and move that back like this. Now, just like this, if we go ahead and save this and see what it looks like, it doesn't do anything magical. You're like, well, this looks exactly just like some text. And the reason for that is we have to specify in this A tag where we want it to go if somebody clicks on that. Now, this is called an attribute. So in HTML tags, you can add to them things called attributes. And not all attributes work for all different tags. You'll sort of see an example of this. But for the A tag, this is extremely common. You could use something called the href, which says where this should go if somebody clicks on it. So I think it stands for hyperlink reference or something like that. It doesn't matter. Everyone just calls it the href. So if we start typing href here, you can see there's the autocomplete for it. And you can see it even did as far as we type this, but you want href =, and then 2 double quotes. And basically the idea is whatever is inside of the double quotes is where this A tag is going to be moving to. So even just by doing this, if we go ahead and hit save and see what this looks like, dun, 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 you can see now it's underlined, and we can click on it, it won't do anything, but at least now it looks like an actual link, right? Like something that we could click on to go somewhere. So if we're going to say we want it to move to this next website called the next page, we can simply just type in here the name of that file. We can say and look, brackets, it's such a cool editor. It automatically pulls up the name there for us. So I could just manually type like the next page, or I could just hit enter here because it's got an autocomplete. But if I do this and hit save, check this out. When I click here, it moves me to this is the next page. And if I want to get back, I could hit back. I mean, I could put a link on this page that gets us back to the home page, or I could just, use the back button here. But look at that. You can move around in a website now, go to different web pages. Like, that's pretty cool functionality. So the whole idea here is that your desktop, where we have our file saved right now, let me go ahead and pull that up. You can, if you want to, move to another page, you simply just type the name of it. But let's say, the next page was inside of a folder. So I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to call it next. All right. So I'm going to move the next page into next. So if we now move that website and we reload here and I try and click on this, it's going to say, Brant. I tried to find something called the next page, but it wasn't there. So to handle this, we'd have to go back to our code and sort of specify here, okay, first we want to go to next, and you can see it provides this next, and then you do a slash to say, okay, this is a folder, now move on to something in that folder. So I'd say next slash, and then it has, this autocomplete is great, the next page.html. So if I, hit save on this, go back, reload this page, and I click move to next page, boom. Look at that, it moves. So, if you store a bunch of your HTML files in a couple of different folders here, this is how you can sort of move through them. And the idea here is that, whenever you can just provide the name of an HTML file, and it's, if something's at the current level that you are, that you can just type the name of the file, and it will move on towards that. And if you ever need to, like, dive deeper, you can specify a folder name or something like that. So this is all fine and dandy, but what if you wanted to go somewhere else? Like, what if you wanted to go to Google, for example? Well, it's as simple as putting just a website here inside of the href. So if I do www.google.com, hit save on this, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home page, reload this, and if I click here, oh, I forgot we need to have an HTTP colon inside of there. Have you ever seen that when you type in a website? It's not just www. You put the HTTP colon / there. So we've got to do the full thing here if we're going to an external website. So I'm going to do HTTP colon / and once we've done that, let's go ahead and reload this. I'm going to move back to our home page here. I'm going to click on this, and dun, 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 look at that. It takes us to google.com. So this could go anywhere, right? If just to follow our typical examples that we had, if we wanted to go to Apple, for example, now when I click on this, it's going to take me to apple.com. But, hopefully you're starting to see the light here with how these A tags work. And they don't have to, you can put them anywhere you want. For example, if I want to say here, like when I like cheese, if we wanted to make cheese go to some website about cheese, I could, put an A tag right here just on the word cheese. So I'm going to put that ending A tag there. I remember I've got to set the href. So that's all lowercase, and I do my double quotes, and I want it to go to something like http colon / www.cheese.com. I don't know what cheese.com is, but we're about to find out. So let's go ahead and check it out. Let's go back to our homepage here, and look at that. We have I like cheese, so it's just the word cheese. That is the link now. So if I go ahead and click on this, bada bing, bada boom. Oh, I put too many T's. HTTTP is what I accidentally did. So let me go ahead and just make it 2. I'll hit save on that. And now check this out. And cheese.com. Oh, this is exciting. I can't wait to see. Oh, what? It's cheese. Who would have thought? All sorts of cheese inside of here. Well, that's pretty great if you're a cheese fan. This looks like a fabulous website. And you know what? Just because we've, learned how to look at websites, let's go ahead and see what their source looks like. So I'm going to do view page source. And look at this. Man, there's that head tag. They got the HTML up here. There's the body. Man, this is awesome. Look, here's some A tags that we just learned about. So for example, they have an A tag that says, the href is / alphabetical / per page equals 20. So that, will take them to a certain page. And oh, there's just all sorts of awesome things inside. I mean, now that you know about this, isn't it crazy? Like, I mean, in the short time that we've worked here, you've learned so much about how websites work and web browsers. I mean, I hope you're as excited as I am. This is some cool information. So that's it for links. Now you know how to make users be able to move throughout your website. We've still got more to learn. Let's keep trucking. So in this lecture, we're going to be learning about images. And while it's about images, we're going to keep learning more and more about attributes. So be kind of aware for that. But first, let's go ahead and dive into images. So let's say we want to have an image show up on our website. In order to do that, we have to have an image to show. So I'm going to do a quick Google search. I want to put a picture of Rasheed Wallace on my homepage. So I'm just going to search Rasheed Wallace. Okay. And let's see what comes up here in the images. And oh, you gotta love Google. Look at all these awesome things. So I'm a big Blazers fan. I liked when he was on the Blazers. So this looks good. I'm gonna right click and say save image as. And I'm gonna put this on the desktop where I have all my other website files. So I'm gonna go ahead and name this Sheed and hit save like that. Great. Now if I go ahead and look on my desktop, I got this image called sheed.jpg. So the question is, how do we make this image show up on our website? Well, first we have to decide where we want to put it. So maybe I'll put it, after Nick is cool, but before he is awesome, just sort of right here in this white space. So I'm going to go to this brackets editor and let's see, where did we do all those BRs? There we go. I'm going to kind of move that down. So in between all of these new lines, these breaks that we have, I'm going to put an image. So in order to add an image to an HTML website, you do an image tab, which is just tag, which is img. So I'm going to do my img, and Oh, brackets didn't give me the closing tag automatically. That was too bad. So we'll just manually type it. That's fine. We can do some things for ourselves. So here we have this image tag. Pretty awesome. But how do we actually get an image to show up inside of here? And this is the reason the image tag didn't show up. And that's because there's no ending bracket for an image. It's not like you can put something inside of an image. So this is sort of like a break in that, you know, you just have the tag like this. Thank you, brackets, for saving me there. So we said that we wanted an image to show up here. What image do we want to show up? Well, just like with an A tag where we specify, you know, the href, which says, you know, it should go to this website or it should go to that one. With an image, we can have it point to a picture on our computer. So I'm going to put here, rather than href for an image, it's called a source. So again, this is an attribute. It's something you add to a tag. So we have image space. I'm going to say source, src. It's short for source, but this is equal to, and then in double quotes, you have to provide the name of the image. So you can see brackets has kind of pulled up a couple of things for us here. I'm going to use the sheed.jpg, and if we hit save on our website, are you ready for this? Boom! Rashid's on the homepage! Yeah! Isn't that awesome? I mean, it was that simple to get an image inside of our website. I think that is freaking cool. Now, one special thing that I do want to note here is that, you know, so far we've had a bunch of text show up on our website. Now, if somebody for some reason is using our website and, you know, either they're blind or they have, you know, vision impaired, whatever reason, they could probably get the gist of our website by having a special tool sort of read the text on the homepage, right? There's a lot of awesome tools for people out there with, you know, issues with vision, and it will, you know, sort of read a website to them. And as long as everything's in text, like, you understand what's there. But, you know, if there's an image all of a sudden, like of Rasheed Wallace, well, they have no idea. And there's no way a program can kind of take this image and decide like, oh, that's Rasheed Wallace. I mean, hopefully one day with artificial intelligence, that's going to be a thing. But for the time being, it'd be nice to provide a clue to those using our website who, you know, aren't able to see the images, like what's inside of that image. So what you can do is, here's in our code, we're going to provide another attribute for this image. It's the alt. So we're going to say alt equal to, double quotes like this. And here you can provide basically a gist of what the picture is. And so we could say Rasheed Wallace looking cool or something like that. Okay. So if we go ahead and save this, and, you know, reload our page here, the image still looks fine. But if you hover over the image and just kind of let your mouse sit there, it's supposed to show that. But, you know, if we go ahead and inspect the element here, I guess maybe that's not a thing with modern web browsers. But there you can see the alt tag is, or the alt attribute is equal to Rasheed Wallace is looking cool. If someone were to use this website and, you know, be visually impaired or whatever, like the programs know to look to these alt tags as to describe what's going on in this picture. And there's other reasons too, like for SEO, if you can describe what's on here, you can get your images to show up in the Google image search, just like we found Rasheed Wallace here. I bet that the website that we looked to had some sort of alt tag talking about Rasheed Wallace inside of there. So that's a thing that you can do to sort of help your visually impaired users. And this is a good practice, I think, with web development. So, I mean, obviously it's your choice. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I just want to show you the basics. And this is definitely something that you should know in the beginnings of HTML. Now, two more attributes that you can set with an image that will be helpful is, you know, let's say you have an image like this and you want it to be a lot bigger, a lot smaller. You can actually specify the height and the width and as an attribute inside of the image tag. So here inside of the image, I can set the height, and you do equals to, and now you don't have to do the brackets for this. You can just set it equal to a number. For example, if I say height equal to 100 and I hit save here, look at that. When I reload, Rasheed's really, really tiny, and he's just kind of like hovering out down there. And if I, you know, for some reason want the width to be something really big, so I say width is equal to 500 or something like that, I'll hit save and reload this page. Boom, now we've got like a stretched out sheet. And so you can kind of do some cool stuff to set the height and width here if, you know, you want to scale with the image, especially if you have larger images. That's something you might want to do to scale down. But then that probably brings up the discussion of, you know, if your image was that big, why don't you just make the image file smaller and then have it show up on the website? You'll see as we move along, you know, you want to use as small of images and resources that you can so that websites load up really fast. If you have like some huge image that's like 1,000 by 1,000, but you're going to end up scaling it to like 200 by 200, well, just go to like Photoshop or some other image editor where you can already scale that down to 200 so the user doesn't have to download 1,000 by 1,000 image and then the browser scales it to 200 by 200. You know what I mean? It just sort of saves the user some time when they're loading a web page. So, yeah, pretty simple example here of what we've got going on. One other thing that I'd like to point out is you don't have to locally have an image on your computer to have it show up. You can like reference an outside image. So for example, with this Rashid, let's go ahead and get a new Rashid image, and I'm gonna get rid of the height and width here. I think it makes it look a little bit loopy. So there we go, he's looking good again. But let's search again for Rashid Wallace, okay? So let's go find another image, and let's do this one when he's on Detroit, okay? So beautiful face, that's great. What you can do is right click this image, at least in Chrome, and you can say copy image address, okay? So if we go ahead and paste this up to a URL, it's showing the exact location of this file on somebody else's website. Wow, there's a rashidwallace.com, that's great. So if we go ahead and hit enter here, like this is just, you know, where this image is located somewhere. So if we wanted this image to show up on our website, we could go back to our code and say, you know what, rather than the source being she.jpg, we could paste in that full HTTP, make sure you got the HTTP stuff, but you know, this full thing of showing where that image is, and brackets is so cool. It went and downloaded the image so we could see what it looked like here, but we hit save and we go ahead and reload on this page, and oh my gosh, look at that, Rashid Wallace shows up. So man, isn't that cool? I freaking love how, you know, with both A tags and images, it doesn't have to be things on your website. You can point other places and go and grab that. So, you know, in this situation, we don't have to even, you know, host this image or, you know, put it on our own computer. We can just always point to it. The obvious issue with this is, let's say, for example, this RashidWallace.com decides to rename this to Rashid Wallace 2 or something like that, or they get rid of the underscore, whatever. Like if they change the name of this image or where it's located, if they decide to not have it in files 2002/05, like our website's going to look broken. Like for example, you know, if we were off by just a little bit, like I got rid of that underscore, we come back to our homepage here, it's going to have an issue and it won't be able to show the image. And here's, you know, it's showing this broken thing saying, hey, we tried to go get this image, but we couldn't go get it. So if you are externally pointing to, you know, other images, you got to make sure that you're sort of always checking up to make sure that those images are at the correct place. So yeah, man, that was a fun lecture. Okay, I promise we're getting to the end here. We just got a couple of more lectures. Let's dive into it again. So this is going to be the last lecture where I teach you something new before we dive in and do a challenge so that you have a chance to actually exercise and do this on your own. So we're going to be learning this lecture about ordered and unordered lists. So how do you list information on a website and make it look great? Okay. So we're going to add some new information to the bottom here. Let me go ahead and close this out. As I'm looking at this, to make some space, I'm only going to keep the H1 that we have up there. That might sort of save us some room. And then what I'm going to do is talk about the two different kinds of lists. So the first one is an unordered list. So this is, if you just want to mark something with some bullet points, this is how you would do it in HTML. So first you make an unordered list tag. Okay, it's just UL. UL stands for unordered list. Okay, and you go ahead and do your closing bracket there. Boom, you've got your opening and your closing. And then inside of here, inside of this unordered list, you have to make things called list items. So a list item, you just have text in between the two tags and it will show up as a bullet point. So for example, let's say I want to list out some things. So I'm going to do a BR from this previous, in fact, two of them from this link that we had above. And then I'm going to say maybe something like my favorite drinks. Okay, so I'm going to list out my favorite drinks. First, I have my unordered list, opening and closing. Then I have to make list items. So I just do LI, which stands for list item, and I'm going to do my closing bracket there, and then I just put some text inside of there. So one of my favorite drinks is Mountain Dew. So I'll go ahead and put that there and I'll hit save. Was that any surprise? Am I a Mountain Dew kind of guy? Did you get that vibe? I don't know if you did. We'll go ahead and reload here and look at that. It says my favorite drinks, and then it's got the bullet and Mountain Dew. So something with a list, even though we didn't do like a, a break tag, the BR to, sort of move down one, a list, whether it's ordered or unordered, is sort of going to make its own spacing. So be aware of that. But, I can simply just keep adding things onto here. So another favorite drink of mine, go ahead and copy. Well, I'll just do a new thing here. So I'm going to do my LI tag, and I'm going to put inside of here whole milk. That can be delicious. Drink too much, you might die of a heart attack, but that's all right. No, that's not all right. Don't have a heart attack. But there we go. My favorite drinks, Mountain Dew, whole milk. And I can just add as many of these as I want. Let me go ahead and do one more. I'm a big fan of Dr. Pepper, so go ahead and put that in there. Save this, reload our home page. There it is. Now my favorite drinks is showing all of these things. Now, this was an unordered list, and the idea behind an unordered list is you just have those bullets, and there's probably some method to the order of these things, but it's not like super important that these things appear in this order. So if we go back to our editor here, instead of doing UL, if we change this to OL, this is going from an unordered list to an ordered list. Look what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And we shouldn't have to be refreshing that home page every time. I'm going to hit this lightning bolt again to get this auto thing working here. But here it goes. And look at that. So it shows up rather than, just as bullet points. It actually writes out 1, 2, 3, and, it gives numbers to these things. So that's the difference between an unordered list and an ordered list. And that's that the ordered list will provide numbers. Unordered lists just have bullet points. And again, with both of them, you're going to have list items inside of there. And if you ever want to go back, it's just as simple as changing this back to UL for the opening and the closing. If I save this, look at that, it goes back to the bullet points. Okay, so this one was a really quick one. It was just to show you this is how you can work with lists. And I've got a really exciting challenge for you. This is rubber meets the road when you're going to actually start doing some code. So let's go ahead and talk about it in the next lecture. Well, there you have it. You finished your very first section in this course. How does that feel? Go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back. That's got to feel good. I mean, going into this, you probably maybe had a little or no experience with HTML, and now, I mean, you've at least made a basic website. You can put a picture of yourself up. You can link to other websites and stuff. I mean, you are learning some awesome things at a great, great pace. So this was the basics of HTML. In the next section, we're going to be learning about CSS. So you can sort of take what you've learned here and sort of make it pretty. CSS allows you to take your HTML elements and actually make them look good. You can add color and style, shift things around, all that sorts of stuff. But we're going to go ahead and dive into that to the next one. Just want to say congratulations on totally taking down this first section. Let's keep moving. You're doing great.
All right, I hope you've enjoyed this first section of the HTML and CSS course. You might be feeling like, wow, there's still so much to learn. I haven't even begun to create a professional modern website. And that's completely true. There is so much more to learn. And that's why we have the full premium course, which has 7 more hours of content. Next, we're going to walk through CSS, then Bootstrap, then we're going to begin the full website builds so that you put all of your knowledge together. By the end of the course, you will be confident creating your own websites. And as I mentioned before, if you enroll in the full course, you get downloadable cheat sheets, guides that include HTML and CSS code that makes creating and developing websites much more efficient. There's also challenges so that you can post your websites to the course page, have other students leave feedback, plus we the instructors will check out your projects as well, and we're always there to help, give premium support. So if you have any questions, if you get stuck in any part of the course, you can always just leave a question on the course page and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. There are so many reasons to enroll in the premium course, so all you have to do is click the button below. Like I mentioned, you get a great discount for clicking through this link because you've watched the preview already, and we can't wait to see you inside the course. Thanks so much, have a beautiful day, and we'll see you inside.